Yeah, I think it's
So I finish off Hall of Fame inductees. I didn't think I got the inductees bit out. So they've announced how many is there? Is there 8 in total?
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players and a scout.
And a scout. Yeah, well, eight in total Hall of Fame inductees, which is what we said. We said it was usually between 6 to 10, and they have announced the 8 for the year.
Particularly strong class, I think, this one. I was looking.
Do you want to run through it?
Yeah, so the scout was Bill Nunn, probably not a household name at all, but the thing that was interesting about him,
Quick math.
He was with the Steelers from 1968 to 2014.
56 years.
56 years scouting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Deserved, I think, after a career like that. Couldn't tell you too much about him.
Well, he would have scouted this next bloke.
Yes, he would have scouted Alan Fennica.
The whole Iron Curtain, like a lot of it. So he would have been around for
the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, exactly. So
so Alan Fennica was drafted in 1998, played through to 2010. He was a guard. Most of his career with the Steelers, a little bit towards the twilight years at the Jets and Cardinals. He was an epileptic, so he was taking anti-seizure meds his whole career. It's pretty...
that's impressive.
Impressive. Yeah. Texas high school and then through to LSU. 6-time All-Pro, 9 times Pro Bowl. He's played 13 seasons, so 9 Pro Bowls out of 13 is pretty impressive. He was a Super Bowl 40 champ with Big Ben when the Steelers...
Antonio Holmes in the corner.
That's the one. Against the Cardinals.
No, that's a later one. I reckon 2010 was against the Seahawks.
That's right. Yeah,
Roethlisberger was a rookie.
Big Ben has 2.
Yeah, it was a stinker of a game. Absolute. Probably the first year I actually started watching football. I remember that vividly. It was shit.
Sean Alexander was MVP, I think, that year.
Right. Yeah, Hasselbeck.
No,
that's before that.
That's before that, I feel like. Actually. Yeah. So Big Ben has 2, but Fennica was there for the second one.
He would have missed that Cardinals game. Mm-hmm. That was a wild game, that one.
Yeah. That was.
Definitely a wild game.
What else about him? Oh, there's only I was trying to have a look. It's hard to ascertain how many true guards are in the Hall of Fame because there's a lot of guys that played guard and tackle or guard and center or all. There's about 20.
He was the best guard of that that decade. Yeah. Of that, the early 2000s.
Noughties.
Yeah, the noughties. He every time, because when he moved between the Steelers and the Jets and that, he was like he was the premier offensive player moving in the free agency. So. Mm-hmm.
So he joins a pretty illustrious group there, only 20-odd guards in the Hall of Fame. He's now 44, and like a lot of O-linemen seem to be doing these days, a little bit more conscious about their weight when they finish their career. Obviously, you can't afford to do this when you're playing guard. You need to be sort of 300 pounds plus, but he's lost over 100 pounds, 45 kilos for the Aussies listening. And you're seeing it more and more with guys that are playing on the offensive line. It's one of the weird sports where they're actually playing at a weight which is not really that healthy to be playing at, but you also need to stop guys that size. So
exactly.
You need to be an immovable object yourself. Yep. Tom Flores, he was quarterback back in the from 1958 to 1969. He won the Super Bowl as a player and coach. First Hispanic starting quarterback in the NFL and first minority head coach to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
As a quarterback, he was with the Raiders, Bills, Chiefs. But before that, shout out to the Bakersfield Spoilers. I think that was in the I've got PCP Football League. That doesn't mean they smoke PCP and then play it, although that would be interesting.
Wild league. I'd definitely watch that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm sure there'd be a lot of candidates over in the States that would be willing to do that as well. So that was the Pacific Coast Professional Football League. It was like, a D-League type thing that like they've got in the NBA that funneled into the NFL. So shout out to the Bakersfield Spoilers. He was a Super Bowl 4 champ. I don't think he played at all in that.
Backup.
You backed up Len Dawson there for the Chiefs. And then as a coach, he coached the Bills and Raiders to Super Bowl wins in Super Bowls 25 and 28.
Wow.
And post-retiring, he was a radio announcer for 20 years. So really devoted his life to the game and gets a nod now. Well, I think those Super Bowl wins were in the mid-'80s, so inducted 30 years after that. He would be very proud as an older gentleman.
I think him and Pearson were the two legends players that got included in the Hall this year.
So moving into Drew Pearson, he was a receiver for the Cowboys from 73 to 83, grew up in Jersey, went to college at Tulsa. As a lot of guys do like these days, Julian Edelman comes to mind. Transition from quarterback to wide receiver in college. He went undrafted. I don't think there's too many undrafted guys in the Hall of Fame. He was Super Bowl 12 champion with the Cowboys, and he head coached Dallas just for the one season in 91. So I don't think he was much chop as a head coach.
He was out for Jimmy Johnson, came from Miami then, and then went on that run with Smith and Aikman.
Yep. He made 3 Pro Bowls, was a receiving yards leader in 1977, finished up with nearly 8,000 yards, 48 touchdowns. When you look at those numbers, like modern guys, there's probably a bunch of guys in the league that have got those numbers.
You're talking 70s.
I suppose, in the 70s, it's pretty elite. And they call him Mr. Clutch. There was a few clutch plays that he made. The most famous was a Hail Mary reception from Roger Staubach against the Vikings in the 75 playoffs. Shout out to Drew Pearson, joins an illustrious crew there in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Moving into some guys that are maybe more household names, definitely for us, as younger Australian fans of the game, guys that we got to see play, got to saw. One of my favourite players ever.
I think 3 of these were first ballot, and Lynch, I think, probably second or third by this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you should be able to tell from their I think they've got the retiring dates there: 15, 15,
15.
Yeah. And then John Lynch
was 7.
Yeah. So let's talk about Lynch, and then we'll go to the
Go.
Yeah. John Lynch. He played for the Bucks and the Broncos.
Yeah, won that Super Bowl with the Buccaneers
back in 2002, and then went over to Denver. He went to Stanford, grew up in California. He was actually drafted as a pitcher by the Florida Marlins in 92, chose football. There's a lot of guys.
Smart.
I think Brady and Mahomes were both excellent baseballers.
Kyler Murray drafted
Kyler
7th
Murray.
overall.
Russell Wilson.
Wilson.
Yep.
These guys are all quarterbacks, so interesting that Lynch played safety.
Yeah.
He was actually drafted in the NFL, the 3rd round, 82nd pick in the 93 draft. There was 5 safeties taken before him. 6'2", 220 size, hit like a linebacker, and that seems to be fairly standard these days for safeties. I think he was a rather big safety.
He's
in 93 when he got drafted.
I think Sean Taylor was the only one after him that kind of fit that model of devastating safeties that came downhill and blew people up, because the league's, of course, changed since then. So Lynch was kind of one of the last guys. Well, I think Sean Taylor being the last guy that kind of fit that mold of, big safeties that came down. Yeah, following on, of course, from Atwater, who the Hitman kind of started. I don't want to say started it, but that whole era of big safeties that came downhill, laid guys out. Like he was the poster boy for that. And Sean Taylor was the next one that followed that.
Throwing yourself at that.
But you get flags for every
but now the league's completely changed since then. So
I think Cam Chancellor might be a good shout as the last kind of guy.
I like that one.
Yeah, I do like that one.
Yeah,
but the league's definitely been trying to stamp out that kind of play.
Which is a shame, because it's for the viewer, it's awesome to see those big hits.
Exactly.
For the receiver, not so much.
As a guy that used to play receiver.
Or even for Lynch, like whacking dudes with your head's not great.
That's right. He made the Pro Bowl 9 times, finished over 1,000 tackles, 13 sacks, 16 forced fumbles, 26 intercepts. I'm sure you guys enjoyed watching him at the latter end of his career.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's move into the first ballot guys. So for any Aussies that are listening along wondering what a first ballot is, it just essentially means that you got to wait 5 years after your retirement before you're eligible to go in the Hall of Fame. All of these guys retired in 2015. It was their first time that they're eligible. So they've got in straight away. There's pretty good reason for that. They're 3 of the best footballers of the last 20 years. Calvin Johnson, Megatron. Only played from 2007 to 2015 with the Detroit Lions. 9 years inclusive. Georgia native, went to Georgia Tech. Number 2 draft pick in 2007. I think there's only been 3 receivers ever taken first. So let's get into his measurables. 6'5",
crazy,
240, 4.35 in the 40, 45-inch vert. And something very interesting that I didn't know about him, I found in this research. The Wonderlic is like it's not an IQ test, but it's essentially a way of measuring your ability to pick up on patterns and things. He actually got a 41 in that, and 50 is the top score. There are a few guys that have got 50 before. Tom Brady got 33.
Yep.
So unbelievably smart wide receiver.
Yeah.
He ended up with 730 receptions, nearly 12,000 receiving yards, 83 touchdowns, and something that people kind of forget, I guess, a little bit, nearly averaged 16 yards a catch, which is a testament to his deep threat ability.
I think he was he was on track to beat a lot of Rice's records at one point as well. So, he played 9 seasons and has averaged over 1,000 yards in each one of them. So.
And nearly 90 catches as well. And again, the stats are so hard because you see it now, modern day, 100 catches is
140.
That's your baseline. But like, just watch the tape. If you've got spare time, watch Calvin Johnson's highlight tape. Some of the speed he gets out,
his wingspan as well,
jumps, catches, throws guys off him. You could throw it to him on a screen. Great route runner, but he's just the biggest guy out there and just a machine.
Yep.
I mean, he retired at the top of his powers. Like I think he had a Pro Bowl and All Pro season the year he retired.
Very unusual retirement. What do you guys reckon that was about?
It's interesting that it happened to the Lions twice because Barry Sanders was the other one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whether that's, just didn't want to play in butthole Detroit for the rest of his career. Of course, he probably could have forced his way out if he wanted to. But, sometimes you just lose the passion for it. Maybe I think he was a little bit banged up towards the end of his season and his career. Like dealing with a few little niggles, but then you got to do rehabbing and you got to maintain all that sort of stuff. Like maybe like Andrew Luck was, he's just like, I've kind of lost the passion for it. I'm not really interested in it. I've got bucketloads of money and I'm going to do other shit.
Yeah, it's a humble take on the game. He was an upstanding character. He had no off-field stuff. Like he was a kid from Georgia that played in Georgia. It wasn't, what you think of wide receivers now. Didn't talk a lot, quiet, humble guy. Teammates loved him. And then not even really 30 or just past 30 and he retired.
Just 30, 31, something like that. Yeah.
Again, we sit here in Shawnee's living room around a table saying, play another 10 years and make 40, $100 billion, put an actual number on it.
He's probably played 20-odd years of football to that point already.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Probably,
If he started real young at the Pee-wees, he's just definitely, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm 30 and I'm getting old. I might as well do some other shit.
Yep. I think the saddest thing about Megatron, and it's definitely a Detroit thing, played 2 playoff games in his illustrious career. No wins. Always one, or both times one and done.
Same thing for Stafford, butthole Detroit. So.
Yeah, it seems to be.
That's it. Imagine if they were on another team.
Good teams
together.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But hey, Megatron, are you in the hall? Do you want to come back? Because he'd be 35 now.
35 now,
He definitely could play.
Jeez. Tom, actually, we'll go back on the GOAT now. I heard a funny stat. Players over the age of 40, most receiving yards. Brett Favre has the least with -2.
Yes.
There's every other player that's played by 2 has 0. Tom Brady has 6. And Jerry Rice has 2,000. So there's the 3 blokes to catch a pass over the age of 40.
There you go.
So Calvin, you got a couple
How old
years.
was Jerry when he 42? I think.
Yeah, Brady.
He
Brady.
came back.
numbers,
He
yeah.
retired once and then came back and
back,
tried. He was on the practice squad for Denver. We went through a preseason.
Yeah, and he had a year at Seattle.
Yeah.
So he bounced around towards the end of it. But
that's what I mean. This guy is literally dragging himself onto the field, whereas Calvin Johnson just hit the point and said, "You know what? I've done everything."
Yeah. And shout out to him.
Again.
Yeah, respect this.
We're sitting around drinking beers, talking shit.
Talking about him. Yeah. So,
that's
and
right,
people will forever now because he's in the hall. So
and deservedly so.
You want to talk about the wood?
Based on pure talent, I would say top 3 receivers I've ever seen.
Yeah. Athletic
athleticism,
freak.
yeah.
You think in the league at the moment, you're probably thinking Mike Evans is probably the only guy that size.
No, DK.
Yeah, DK's 2 inches shorter though.
Yeah.
I think. So there's not many people.
There's no comparison.
That size.
him.
He's just a freak athlete.
Randy Moss was 6'4", but he was 210, whereas Megatron was
And I don't think
that's
Randy
110
Moss,
kilos.
I don't think Randy Moss ran a 4.3 either. So
How tall is AB?
6 flat, 5'11".
Yeah, small guy.
Yeah.
Similar sort of build, just shorter.
No, speed wise,
Yeah.
but AB's a small guy.
Because I know Demarius Thomas came out straight out after
sure.
Johnson, but again, he was only 6'3", 230.
There's not many guys that's a tight end.
Yes.
That's a tight end size with
Yes.
elite speed.
Well, Darren Waller, I think, is that kind of size.
Yeah,
so
and
that's probably the
some of the best
comparison.
hands that you'll ever see. If you want to go back on YouTube, they had a catch at Georgia Tech, which is obscene. He's running like a 5 and in across the middle of the field. The quarterback's missed him by
10 yards.
Yeah, he's just gone full horizontal and put it in his left hand. And I remember watching that before he got drafted, just going, "This is my guy. I want this dude," and did not disappoint in his NFL career.
Yeah.
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson, get stuck in.
Defensive back, so obviously was drafted as a corner, moved to safety later in his career. Raiders and Packers. Played at Michigan, won the 97 national championship.
Tom Brady was on that team.
Yes, I checked this one. It's not an Ed Reed, Ray Lewis. Tom Brady was on that team.
Who was the starting quarterback?
I don't know.
Brian Greasy, who was then drafted that year to Denver.
So greasy.
To then replace John Elway. So there you go.
Yeah, them and Nebraska were both ended up undefeated, and it was back in the day where
they shared the national championship.
or it was Associated Press had them number one, but coaches had them number one, so it was and then the bowl system came in, I think, the following year because how it hadn't happened before then, and they're like, oh, hang on, we've got two. I don't know how that ended up.
Even now, when there's 4 teams, but
at least
16,
now that
do 16 or something.
Now
at
they've
least
got to play.
Games. At least there's games. Yeah. I remember when Barack Obama was in the White House and someone was sort of pressing him on what's the biggest thing that you're going to get happen. He said, football. Football. No. He's saying football needs to have a tournament.
A tournament.
Yeah,
exactly.
But
how right he was.
Run through stats.
He's 4th overall draft pick in 1998. He won the Heisman. He's the only defensive player to ever do that, which is
primary defensive.
There are guys that played a little bit,
he beat Peyton out that year. It was a robbery, I think. People were.
We'll get to Peyton in a sec.
Go.
98 defensive rookie of the year, so impact straight away in the league. He won the defensive player of the year in 09. I believe that was at Green Bay, not the Raiders.
Yep.
9 times Pro Bowler, 2 times intercept leader. He won a Super Bowl with the Packers, Super Bowl 45. He played 254 games, which is pretty remarkable as a defensive player. 1,200 tackles, 65 intercepts. That's 5th all time.
He is corner to safety, yeah?
Corner to safety, yeah. And that tends to be the way guys go. You slow down a little bit. Maybe you read the game a little bit better than when you were younger.
The transition is difficult. Because it is a different.
It is a different position, but I think you'd be surprised. There's a fair few guys.
Malcolm Jenkins comes to mind.
Aeneas Williams back in the day.
I know Champ tried it and couldn't pull it off because for him it was the difference is the eyes, because the safety is more your peripherals, so you're going to be able to pick things up from multiple different angles. Whereas as your corner, it's usually you've got half of it, so it's like the guy in front of you and then this side, one side, depending on what side you're playing. So it is a different perspective. It's processing information from different angles at the same time is the challenge for it. So some guys like Champ tried it and wasn't real great at it, so he just tried to stick with corner and eventually finished up. But there's some that do work, like Woodson had a great second career as a safety.
It was just probably 4 or 5 years back end of his career that he played safety. 33 first fumbles, 18 fumble recoveries, and 13 defensive touchdowns, if you don't mind. That's pretty incredible. Let's finish off Peyton Manning.
Peyton motherfucking Manning.
I saw you had that note.
That MFing made its way on the script.
MFing. Quarterback, obviously, for the Colts and Broncos, 1998 to 2015, was a Tennessee volunteer in his college. I think the Manning family out of New Orleans, Louisiana, growing up.
His old man played for the Saints.
Archie played for the Saints,
2-time Super Bowl champ. So, as we mentioned before,
curious.
Brady becomes only the second person to ever do that because Peyton did it with 2 teams. Super Bowl 41 with the Colts, Super Bowl 50 with your Denver Broncos. They called him the Sheriff. Probably sort of changed the game a little bit in terms of how much he had audible at the line. You do see that now a lot in the NFL they've sort of got a play called, but they go out and they read the defense, and then there's about 3 or 4 or 5 things that they can.
Him and Marvin Harrison and
Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James,
so deadly.
There was a year at the Colts where he had 1,000-yard receivers. Those 2 blokes and Brandon Stokely, I believe.
Dallas Clark, actually. I remember he was a tight
Dallas
end.
Clark
Never
was
walked
nuts,
shit me no end.
Yeah.
But again, how good are these guys without as Kyrgios breaks
Yeah,
TM,
any-
serving for the second set.
Any tennis fans?
Sorry, we'll get
We'll get to the
I'm
tennis.
sorry.
Well, no, we'll just let the listeners know
Quick update.
we are in the second set of the third round of the Australian Open. Dominic Thiem, the third seed, is currently nearly down 2 sets to Nick Kyrgios. We will get to that in a second. Peyton Manning, 5-time league MVP.
Only bloke to do it.
Brady and Rogers have 3. So no one's got 4.
Yep.
Don't see Brady getting any of those anytime soon. No. Maybe
Was that Rogers third this year, or is it? Yeah, okay.
Third this year.
Right, there you go.
So he still sits 2 ahead of that. And that, when people still want to argue was Peyton Manning better than Tom Brady, they like to argue that. For me, the 2 Super Bowls versus the 7 is the thing that...
Yeah.
And the countless sorry, this is his Hall of Fame. We don't want to shit on him, but
and playoff records.
they had countless head-to-heads. I know they don't literally go on the field at the same time, but their teams.
Yeah.
Look at the team records. That's what you've got to do to be the best.
And if you're going to pick a guy purely on talent, you probably wouldn't pick either of these guys. You'd go for someone like Mahomes, or like even Elway had a better arm than
Rodgers,
these two.
yeah.
Like talent-wise, you pick the others. But then you go, these two... mental game, the leadership aspect was just off the charts.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
different kind of conversation, but you can't deny that the Peyton Manning and Tom Brady of the last 20 years are the 2 best quarterbacks to ever do it.
I tend to agree with that.
And they both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame play.
Oh, of course. First ballot. I think Breeze and Rogers, it's fair to have them in up there and thereabouts. I don't think anyone's going to go out there and argue that Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. But, he might still have 5 years left in his career.
And,
I think it comes down to
Roethlisberger could
longevity.
sneak into that conversation too.
Yeah. 14 Pro Bowls for Peyton Manning, which is ridiculous. That's tied with a lot of guys. So Brady, Tony Gonzalez, Bruce Matthews, and Merlin Olsen.
Yep.
Swirl and Merlin.
266 games. Again, we're talking about Brady's longevity. No one's going to go close to him at the quarterback position. That will be up there. I think Breeze probably has played more than Manning. I know I'm confident there that Breeze played more than Manning. But he'd be top 5.
Yes, Breeze, I think, owns most of the records for
passing yards.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did pass He passed Favre's records, which now he's getting past, which again
Breeze is
will
now
happen.
making his.
You look at some of the top 10 quarterbacks, you go, we've seen them all play. Why is that a thing?
Yeah, you got to remember, Manning, at the start of his career, averaged 3,000 yards a season. And then, as the noughties kind of went on, then it became 4,000 was good. But, the guy's throwing 5,000 yards now. So,
Jameis Winston.
Yeah. But, the upper 4,000s, close to 5,000s, kind of, that's a Deshaun Watson did that this year. I think he had 4,800. So you go forward in the future,
maybe 6,000 is going to be the new norm.
Yeah, well, exactly. A guy like Trevor Lawrence coming in, if he's as good as everyone thinks, in 20 years' time, we might be he's got over 100,000, 120,000 yards. It's going to be ridiculous.
They keep changing the rules to suit the offense. Yeah. Anyways, Peyton Manning, a testament to his winningness, 186 wins, 79 losses. I'm not sure what the percentage is there, but
over half.
Pushing 70.
7-2.
Anyways, we know that quick maths is banned on this, especially maths like that. Nearly 72,000 passing yards. How's this one? This is the one that sticks out for me. 539 passing touchdowns. Holds the record for most passing touchdowns in a season with 55. I don't think anyone's gotten past 51.
Mahomes had 50, Brady had 50.
Yeah, Brady had it beforehand. I think he had 51.
Yeah.
That's what Brady had.
I think he's 4 clear.
Yeah,
there.
and he's easily 4 clear. Yeah, 55 is the most.
What is that, 3 a game? 3.5 a game?
So both Rodgers and...
3 games, 48.
Yeah, both Rodgers and Wilson were on pace to break it this year, but then both, trailed off towards the end of the season.
We're talking at week 6.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, absolutely. Dak Prescott was going to throw for
Rodgers got 44, so,
Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes both have 50.
There you go. So he's 5 clear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unbelievable season, that one with Denver.
Didn't help him in the Super Bowl.
No.
Anyway, keep going.
And the last thing I just wanted to mention, his career passing rating, 96. Pretty incredible.